Good morning and happy Tuesday, folks. Let's get to my low, my high, my act of kindness. Let's see. I guess my low and my high, I would say, are intertwined because, for all intents and purposes, it really was a nice day out up until the dozen plus times that it rained. Like, seriously, after like 3 o'clock, it felt like it kept raining on and off and on and off. And it was really crazy because, like, it would rain and you'd be under like giant patches of clouds. But like in the distance, you could see like blue sky and like sunshine like peeking through. And like, the clouds were like heading in your direction, meaning the blue sky and the sunshine was heading in your direction. So when I say it really felt like it was on and off, it really felt like it was on and off. And what's my act of kindness? I know I held the door for some people yesterday. I also know I helped someone pick out a grocery cart while shopping. I called my mom I tried calling my mom, but I wasn't really able to talk to her until, the end of the day. So, yeah. Also, I wished my brother a happy birthday yesterday, because it was actually my brother's birthday yesterday. I'm very hopeful that my brother had a nice birthday. In fact, I'm sure he did. So, I said I was going to do this in yesterday's video. The 13th Hot Ones guest of 2026. Right, 2023 is when I kind of started this trend. Good Lord, I've been doing this for a while. The marvelous Mrs. Maisel herself, Rachel Brosnahan. And Lois, like, wow. I just realized, like, the marvelous Mrs. Midge Maisel and Lois Lane. I mean, they're both of Rachel Brosnahan's best characters, but alliteration for the win, dude. Okay, but for real. Actually, you know what? Might as well talk about Mrs. Maisel, because that was the first question Sean asked her in yesterday's episode, which was, because if you watch The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, there's a lot of really great set pieces. Like, whether they're in, I think it's in the Catskills, or like New York City, or just or anywhere, or Central Park, or there's like a whole bunch of like extras. Not to mention the costume designs, which I'll get into a bit later. I mean, needless to say, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel might just be the greatest show on television that had like the most beautiful set pieces. So naturally, Sean's first question was, what was like, Rachel Brosnahan's favorite one? And it was when they did the USO scene. I'm going to look that up real fast. Not the scene. I know what scene it is. I guess it means... Hold on, what? Okay, so... I had no idea the USO meant United Service Organizations, so please bear with me. But if you're familiar with, or if you're probably in the military, you know what this is. But every now and again, they'll book like really special entertainment. It could be like a comedian, it could be music or whatever. And there's a scene in Mrs. Maisel where she performs in front of the troops. You know, there's like hundreds of extras wearing, you know, old-time military uniforms, and, you know, Mrs. Maisel is wearing, and, you know, Rachel Brosnahan's character is wearing age-appropriate, you know, clothes for it. I remember watching that scene, and here's the thing. And kudos to Sean Evans for being a lot more, I guess, methodical, even though it's not really the right word for it. Because people like me see a scene like that, and wow, that's a really great scene. But then you have people like Sean Evans, and probably other people as well, who look at that scene like, well, they think it's a great scene too, but they go a little deeper as to why that is. I need to be a lot better about that. I do. I'm not the best at it. I would try to be, though. They also talked about, like, the most usual notes in between scenes that she'd get, which is the production manager would be like, faster, faster, faster. Because Midge Maisel talks at, like, breakneck speed. They also talked about her being a quote-unquote disciple of Lee Strasberg, and they talked about what the sense memory is, or like, an example, obviously if you can pretend you're 3 years old in the snow, you may not remember you were 3 years old, but your body remembers what snow feels like, if that makes sense. She talked about her favorite theater to perform in, which was the Steppenwolf, which she's from Chicago. Makes sense. She talked about how playing Lois Lane in Superman is the character that was most like her personality, and how difficult it was to approach the character, because, you know, it's actually what I mentioned in yesterday. There's like, you know, decades upon decades of lore involving the character of Lois Lane. Approaching that character would be difficult for any actress to do. Like, literally any actress could go approach that role, and it would not be easy. I mean, I mentioned that in, you know, yesterday's video as well. You know, even the times where, you know, Lois Lane was no longer the quote-unquote damsel in distress, and they gave her more of a personality. Some people actually argue that was worse. Though, granted, I don't really see that. So, at the end of the day, like, you do want to do service to, you really want to do the character of Lois Lane justice. Not just to the script and what James Gunn, the director, was trying to do, but to the fans. Because, listen, I know it seems easy to say that all fans do is complain about whatever it is that doesn't go their way, but there's a reason why they do. Because more often than not, they're usually right. Believe me, I've been a fan of several things that I've complained about as well, so, you know, I know what I'm talking about. She actually used to wrestle in high school. That's really cool. And she talked about going back to her high school after she appeared being in a Michael Bay film. I forget what movie it was. She said the name, I forgot to write it down, sorry. They talked about the idea of, you know, working hard on a scene, only to have that scene cut from, like, you know, the movie or show that she was in, which, here's the thing. She has noticed that there's scenes of hers that have been cut, but not to, like, the scenes where, you know, she worked really hard on them only to be cut, if that makes sense. And also they talked about doing, like, a whole bunch of the most takes she ever did for, like, a scene. They talked about the fact that she's an avid reader. And how, you know, this is actually a really interesting question. Because Sean asked her, like, what fantasy novel from her youth, from Rachel Brosnahan's youth, would she like to see adapted? I'm like, because Rachel Brosnahan is literally like my age. And I thought, as far as I knew, a lot of the great, book adaptations of our time have already been adapted into theaters. The Hunger Games, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings. But Rachel Brosnahan's idea of a movie that should be adapted is called The Daughters of the Moon, where I think the premise, if I remember correctly, it's like these teenage girls gain like superpowers or something. Actually, I'm going to look that up right now. Okay, see, novel series by Lin Ewing. Main characters are immortal goddesses who fight an ancient evil called the Atrox. They have different powers, destinies, dark sides, and all wear moon amulets. When they turn 17, they make a choice to become something more, continue their lives as mortals, giving up their powers and losing their memories of them as daughters of the moon. Okay. They all live in Los Angeles, and the Atrox and Dark Followers. Sons of the Dark is a companion series. Okay. Oh, Dark Moon. Okay. Wow. Holy cow. Lin Ewing got busy. Because Daughters of the Moon and Sons of the Dark combined have 17 books. I'm going to go on a limb here and say, you know what? I really do hope Rachel Brosnahan is able to somehow adapt this series into something. Of course, if they wind up doing that, I would highly suggest. They could do. Well, I don't know how long the books are, is the problem. Because I think they could probably get like maybe, well, there's 17 seasons for a show. There's no way they'd be able to pull that off. Maybe they could do, 6 seasons, with season 6 being the last 2 books, I suppose. Like adapting three books into a season. Like, maybe they could do that. Huh. I may need to look this series up. To learn more. Okay, where was I? For The Bomb, they talked about, basically it was, her talking about the midget's wardrobe, like, what they all mean. Like, the fact that she likes to wear, like, wardrobe had her wear pink a lot, red being a power color, going to a wedding, the outfit she wore going to a wedding after her husband breaks up with her, which, man, cheating jerk. Sorry, man. Like, listen. I don't care. This might be a hot take to say I don't care, but you don't know how good you got it. If y'all cheating, you deserve a beating, okay? They talked about Xenon, Girl of the 21st Century, being a goated kids movie. Man, I remember seeing the promos for that movie so much when I was a kid. And, a reunion would be cool. I wouldn't, I actually never saw the Xenon films. I really didn't. But if they ever did like some sort of reunion thing, I'd watch it. I think I would. And then finally, for the last dab, Sean asked her, what do you think Midge would say after eating the wings of death? Which, I mean, that is an interesting question. Like, and I like that she made fun of the fact that Midge would be talking very fast at that moment. Because, you know, again, all those notes of her, like, picking up the pace when it comes to her talking. But that's how, like, again, the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel took place in the late 50s, early 60s. You know, there's going to be, like, that's how people talk back then. In some cases, you can make the argument that they talk fast even now. Just, we don't really notice that because we've been talking like that for so long, we don't notice it. Let's see. Trying to make sure there wasn't anything I missed. I think I got everything. So, yeah. I guess we'll call this season 29, episode 13. That's usually what I do when the bonus episodes come out. But seriously, this was nice. Congratulations to, you know, again, Sean Evans, Chris Schoenberger, and the folks behind Hot Ones for another great episode. Rachel Brosnahan, congratulations on all the work you've done, for all the work you're doing, and all the work that you will be doing. In fact, soon she's going to be working on the sequel to Superman, which is going to be Superman, Man of Tomorrow. I can't wait to see the trailer for that, if it ever comes out soon. Yeah, man, this was a great episode. Hope you like this video. If you like us on our YouTube channel, follow us on social media. As always, I'm very humble this video for all of you guys watching. Joe today. Hopefully you have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful Tuesday. And remember, if you guys want to talk, change, we're here to lend you back. Take care and make good choices. 607 all day, baby.